Hyundai national meeting at the Aldo Scribante circuit in Port Elizabeth, and an opportunity for Eastern Cape fans to see some of the fastest race machinery in South Africa in round 11 of the South African Formula E Championship. For the layman, Formula E is probably better known as 250 supercarts, with Cape Town driver Marcel Angel arriving at Aldo Scribante with a comfortable 45-point lead over Fabio Tofani in the championship. Despite his big lead, Angel wasn't going to sit back on his laurels.
I'm going to give it a go. There's a possibility that I may not be able to race the next meeting, so I'm going to give it a full go, and I'm certainly going to try and win both races today.
While Marcel Angel was determined to win both heats, it was Neil Gordon-Watson who took pole position by a sizable margin from the championship leader. Fabio Tofani and Paolo Toscano shared the second row, with Colin Ellison and Richard Green on row 3 of the grid. The Formula E Championship utilises a rolling start at all races, and as the field steamed down to the first corner, it was reigning champion Angel who had a slight advantage over Gordon-Watson, who was trying to sneak through on the inside under braking. Angel was having none of that and firmly closed the door on Gordon-Watson, who suddenly found himself down in 4th place as first Fabio Tofani and then Paolo Toscano dived through on the inside. From pole to 4th in less than half a lap was not the sort of start Gordon-Watson wanted. It was a blistering start from Angel, who was already pulling away from Tofani and Toscano, with Gordon-Watson now under pressure from Colin Ellison. Most of the top Grand Prix drivers over the last decade started their careers in karts, and many still compete in kart events on a regular basis. Double world champion Michael Schumacher likes to drive a kart as often as possible to keep his eye in for Formula One racing, and you can see why. A low centre of gravity and a high power-weight ratio give the low-slung karts blistering speeds and exceptional road holding. You only have to compare the Formula E and Westbank modified saloon car lap records at Aldo Scribante to get an idea of just how quick the Formula E brigade motor along. The Westbanks are powered by big V8 motors pushing out around 650 horsepower, but Ben Morgenrood's lap record at Aldo Scribante is only 1/10 of a second quicker than Marcel Angel's Formula E record. Angel was starting to run away from Tofani and Toscano and was putting into action a pre-race plan that was based on the simple principle of putting as much distance as quickly as possible between himself and the rest of the field. The plan was working like a charm, and behind him, Tofani and Toscano were added hammer and tongs. The Honda hairpin is a prime overtaking spot at Aldo Scribante, and Toscano picked his spot to charge up the inside of Tofani and move into second place. Through the bumpy Firehawk sweep, the karts were sliding all over the place, with Toscano right on the limit as he tried to close on Angel and at the same time pull away from Tofani. Gordon-Watson was still 4th, with Ellison 5th, but at the front of the field, a flying Marcel Angel was starting to disappear into the distance. Down the main straight at Aldo Scribante, the Formula E karts hit a top speed of around 230 kilometers an hour. The big fight on the racetrack was between Toscano and Tofani, with Tofani using slipstreaming tactics to perfection to reclaim second place when he went through on the inside at the Luke Repco sweep. Toscano was trying to fight back through the Conti S's, but just did not have the momentum to pull it off. With Tofani and Toscano concentrating on their little confrontation and holding each other up, race leader Marcel Angel was continuing to edge away from the battle for second. It also gave Neil Gordon-Watson in 4th place the opportunity to close up on Tofani and Toscano, and he brought with him Colin Ellison. In a situation tailor-made to produce a little drama, there was now only about a second separating Tofani in second and Ellison in 5th place. The long right-hander at Goodyear leads onto the main straight and demonstrated just how quickly matters can change in Formula E racing. Fabio Tofani was lying second on the short run between the Firehawk sweep and Goodyear, but when they hit the main straight, he was back in 4th position with both Paolo Toscano and Neil Gordon-Watson ahead of him. Marcel Angel led by half the main straight, with Tofani fighting back to reclaim second ahead of Gordon-Watson, who was under severe pressure from Toscano and Colin Ellison. While Paolo Toscano was heavily involved in the battle behind race leader Marcel Angel, matters weren't going quite as smoothly for Roberto Toscano, who headed for the pits and retirement. The end of the race for one Toscano, with another Toscano challenging for second place at the Honda hairpin, and once again moving ahead of Fabio Tofani in what was turning into a magnificent battle. Gordon-Watson had slipped back to 4th, with Colin Ellison still in 5th. The run into Goodyear corner and another change in the pecking order behind race leader Marcel Angel. A little late braking and a tight inside line saw Gordon-Watson sneak into 3rd place ahead of Fabio Tofani. At the front of the field, Marcel Angel now led by 3/4 of the main straight, with battle raging between Paolo Toscano, Gordon-Watson, Fabio Tofani and Colin Ellison over the minor placings. The four-way fight looked likely to go all the way to the wire, with a tight battle also going on in Class B, where Bruce Bolliers was under pressure from Alan Fetting. Lap 8 out of 12 and dramatic developments. Marcel Angel still led by the proverbial mile, but Fabio Tofani had pulled away from Paolo Toscano in the battle for second place. There were late problems for Gordon Watson, who was lying fourth when he indicated that he had a mechanical malfunction and was slowing down. Marcel Angel was now around 15 seconds clear of Fabio Tofani and had the race in his pocket. For his part, Tofani was under no real threat from Toscano, and at this stage the closest battle on the circuit was an intriguing fight between Class B frontrunners Bruce Bolliers and Alan Fetting, who were now up into 5th and 6th. With a driver having to complete 2/3 of a race distance to qualify for points, Neil Gordon Watson was still circulating slowly, while race and championship leader Marcel Angel started his last lap. Angel now had the length of the main straight between himself and Fabio Tofani, and in the closing laps had slowed down to avoid the sort of mechanical problems that had hit Gordon Watson and Colin Ellison, who had also fallen by the wayside. Fabio Tofani had a tight hold on second place, but behind him, Paolo Toscano was trying to mount a last-minute challenge. Toscano was on a charge and slowly closing in on Tofani, but with less than a lap to go, it looked as though his last-ditch effort was a lost cause. With the field now spread out, Marcel Angel came cruising around Goodyear Corner for the last time, and to add to his list of wins this season and increase his championship lead. Angel took the checkered flag with Fabio Tofani still 15 seconds in arrears, with Toscano third and Richard Green fourth. Bruce Bolliers won the Class B battle ahead of Alan Fetting. Afterwards, we asked Marcel Angel if he was trying to break his 2-year-old lap record.
No, I wasn't trying to get the lap record. I wasn't sure where Fabio and Neil were. So the first 6 laps or so, I really pushed hard in the first heat. And then my pit told me that I had a huge gap, and then I slowed down a little bit. I wasn't sure where they were.
We pick up the action on lap 3 of the second race, and no surprise to see Marcel Angel out in front of Fabio Tofani, Neil Gordon Watson, who had come through from the back of the field, and Paolo Toscano. These four dominated the first race before Gordon Watson dropped out of contention with a flat rear tyre. Now the status quo was restored, with Gordon Watson under tremendous pressure from Toscano on the Conti S's. Toscano was trying to find a way through on the inside, but had the door closed on him. Into the Honda hairpin with Angel ahead of Tofani, Gordon Watson and Toscano, and Angel hasn't been able to waltz away from the rest of the field as he did in race 1. Through the very fast Firehawk sweep, and Gordon Watson looked set to mount a challenge on Tofani at Goodyear Corner. He was tucked in behind Tofani and once or twice in the first race pulled off overtaking manoeuvres at Goodyear by taking a tighter line in the corner. It worked again for Gordon Watson, and he was up into second place after starting from the back of the grid because of his race 1 problem. Richard Green was fourth, with Roberto Toscano sixth, with a huge wake-up call for Alan Fetting at the front of Class B field. One thing you don't want to do is to get a Formula E kart up on the curves, and Fetting almost came unstuck in a big way. At the front of the field, Marcel Angel still led from Gordon Watson, Fabio Tofani and Paolo Toscano, but all was not well with the race leader. Angel looked to have picked up an intermittent engine misfire and wasn't able to set the cracking pace he had managed in race 1. Gordon Watson was now piling on the pressure and started to look for a way around Angel. From a championship point of view, the important thing for Angel was to stay ahead of Fabio Tofani. He went into the Aldo Scribante race with a 45-point lead, picked up another 3 points on Tofani in race 1 and needed to further consolidate. Goodyear Corner again, in a favourite overtaking spot for Gordon Watson. Angel managed to hold him off, but was casting anxious looks over his shoulder and knew he was in trouble down the main straight. A double slipstreaming act with Gordon Watson tucked in behind Angel and Toscano tucked in behind Tofani, with Luke Repko approaching at a rapid rate of knots. Simple but classic overtaking manoeuvres from both Gordon Watson and Toscano. Into the Conti S's, and Gordon Watson was into the lead and Toscano was up into third. For the first time on the day, Marcel Angel was out of the lead. The big questions now were whether Angel could fight back or would also fall into the clutches of Toscano and Tofani. Toscano had a huge moment when he ran wide at the right-hand sweep, with Fabio Tofani on his inside at the Honda hairpin. Toscano simply bit the bullet, barged his way around Tofani with contact between the two karts at the exit to the hairpin. through the Firehawk sweep, and the little confrontation at Honda between Toscano and Tefani saw them lose a little ground on the race leader Gordon Watson and Marcel Angel. Gordon Watson was starting to edge away from Angel, who had a small gap over the battle raging behind him. The Luke Repso sweep was going to be a danger point for both Gordon Watson and Toscano, but neither Angel nor Tefani were close enough to think of mounting attacks down the inside. Fierce battles were raging at the front of the field, but it was the end of the road for Doug Kent, who was cruising into the pits to retire for the second time in 2 races. Lap 9 and Neil Gordon Watson had taken control of proceedings, with earlier battles starting to fizzle into nothing. Gordon Watson was now comfortably ahead of Marcel Angel, who was still troubled with an intermittent misfire. Angel wasn't making any headway where Gordon Watson was concerned, but had a comfortable gap over Paolo Toscano, who had broken away from Fabio Tefani. Although Toscano wasn't under threat from Tefani, he was still inclined to be a little ragged through the corners. Behind him, it looked as though Tefani also had a problem, and he kept glancing down at the engine as though fearing the worst. Through Luke Repco and into the Conti S's with Neil Gordon Watson in full command. Bruce Bolliers was again leading Class B after Alan Fetting's earlier indiscretion with Aldo Scribante's curving forced him into retirement. Bolliers was up into 6th place behind Gordon Watson, Angel, Toscano, Tefani and the steady Richard Green. It was now all over by the shouting for Neil Gordon Watson, but there was still a sting in the tail. The unfortunate Fabio Tefani eventually rolled to a halt, and the non-finish did not do his championship chances any good. Neil Gordon Watson duly put the finishing touches to a comfortable win, although championship leader Marcel Angel must have been satisfied with his points returns. Race 2 saw the Toscanos 3rd and 4th, followed by Richard Green and Class B winner Bruce Bolliers.
It was very hard. Marcel was very quick in the early morning, and second heat was thought to be a walkover for him, but somehow managed to come through from the back and passed him, and hopefully he never came back, which he didn't.